Kicking off the fall properly in the middle of fall. Oh, middle of October. 14th today. Abnormally warm weather. This warm system come through. So in the 80s today and tomorrow. Then it's going to dip down Saturday like 40s. Remember the Gap Trail? One of the harder trails in the park. My goal is to finish all the trails in this park. I've done most of them already. This is one of the ones I haven't done. They close this one off during certain times of the year. So I know in the winter you can't do this one. So I'm trying to get it done now in the fall. We got about 10 miles ahead of us. Got off to a late start. Left the house late, slept in a little bit. Figured I had time. Got all the way here. When I drive, I usually just wear flip-flops. You know, keep my feet comfortable. Problem with that is I forgot my shoes, my hiking shoes. So, drove all the way here. It's about 45 minutes from my house. Realized I didn't have my hiking shoes. Just had flip-flops. Drove back to Traveler's Rest. I was gonna retire my Wildcats after this hike anyway. Kind of on their last few miles. So, it's a little outfitter shop in Traveler's Rest to stop at. I picked up some Altras. So, my first time doing Altras, the zero drop. It's like walking in flip-flops, really. For a Florida boy like me, your feet are kind of already used to that. I like the wide toe on these too. It's nice. So it's not like I have to break them in too much. But let's get in a rhythm here. Get going. We got a lot of climbing. So we started here. Coming up this yellow trail here. Remember the gap. I gotta take this trail all the way here. We're gonna jump onto this purple trail here. Takes to the blue trail. Back over to this orange trail. And then we're gonna shoot that back up here. Campsite somewhere right around there. I mean, you can go straight, but that's the easy way. I like doing it the hard way. Alright. So, I think we finished a long climb up to the rim of the Gap Trail. At almost 1,800 feet of climbing I just finished over the last 3 miles. So, it's got a little uphill to it. I'm gonna just, y'all can hear how quiet it is right now. Some crickets, no wind, as you can tell. So, got like almost record high temperatures for mid-October. On top of that, we got no wind. So it's like when you're hiking in the summer. The whole reason I planned this trip for mid-October, you know, over a month ago, I planned this trip. Because I was like, it'd be nice, cooler weather, mid-October. We'll make the climbing up here and all that doing so bad. And then the 2 days I'm out here, near record high temps. Only for the 2 days I'm out here though. The day I'm walking out of here, it's gonna drop down to like high of 60s and lows in the 40s like it's supposed to normally be right now. But I'm actually doing some downhill for a change. I've not seen anybody else up here since I started. And I have walked through about 5,644 spider webs. I counted all of them. So, we are starting some downhill now. I think I'm supposed to jump out on some kind of ridge here soon. So, let's see how that goes. Altras are working well. I like them. Comfortable. Just since I didn't have time to break them in. But yeah, let's keep moving. Gotta find some water. I'm out of water. I think it's interesting on this ridge. You're crawling down stuff like this at a rock face. And you can see way down there. You won't fall. We are going to be heading back up through there along this rock face. I'm out on a ridge with Jones Gap valley way down there. So, a money shot. We are about 4.5 miles in. About to hit 1,900 feet of elevation gain. Been working my way down mostly, but it's been a lot of this wet rock stuff. And I would say these ultras, they don't do well on the wet stuff. I've slipped more times, probably 3 or 4 times already. These things are brand new, so they're full grip. You know, they ain't worn out or nothing. They just don't grip the rock the way like my Wildcat ones do. I just slip on stuff like this, you know, every once in a while, but I don't feel like I'm being very cautious with every step because these things, they quickly come out from under me. When you're up on stuff like this, you don't want to slip, you should die. So I put the camera away so that doesn't happen. And this is my last video ever. Oh yeah, all right. Just finished up Rim of the Gap. I might say it's the hardest trail I've done. I've some pretty hard trails. It's probably the most dangerous one I've ever done. I can see why they close it during 10 times a year, because there's parts where you're on a ledge, you're close, it's all slippery rocks. It's very overgrown. I mean, I've slipped maybe 7 or 8 times on this one, which I never slipped that much. I don't know if that's maybe the new shoes, the Ultras. I'm not really good at the wet rock stuff like some of my other shoes are, but I've never been so worried about slipping and falling. But yeah, we're done with the Rim of the Gap. It's already 4:23, so I've only got till 7-ish. It's getting dark. And I'm right. My campsite is like basically on the mountain over there. I'm gonna come down up here, circle around. I'll be up over there. Pretty cool view though. As you can see around me. It's getting dark. I still have a few miles to go. So I got a couple options. Let's keep pushing through. I just had to sit down here in the trail because I've been pushing hard the last mile or so and starting to make me feel sick. It's not a good thing. But I haven't really eaten much, and I've been drinking, but not, I don't know. I felt sick all of a sudden, pushed myself too hard, that kind of sick. So I can either try to find a spot around here to just set up camp, which you're not supposed to do. So stay in your designated campsite. But in an emergency situation, obviously you can do what you gotta do. And that wouldn't, not that I'm in an emergency situation now, but my thought process is to prevent an emergency situation. If I keep pushing myself, I could end up injuring myself or be in a bad spot where then it is a real emergency. So that's option one, but there's not really any good sight. This is all really overgrown, uneven terrain. This is where if I had my hammock, it would be nice, because I could just string that thing up anywhere and be done. But as it is, you keep pushing. I just ate a little Cliff Bar. I got the headlamp. Yeah, I mean, I've night hiked through here before, so it's, I mean, the biggest difference is last time I night hiked through here, I was doing it on fresh legs. I drove up here at night and started the hike at night. I'm at almost 10 miles now. I've done over 3,000 feet of elevation, and my legs are anything but fresh at this point. So I'm gonna at least try to get to the end of this trail. Oh lordy, having fun. Alright, it's about 5 o'clock in the morning. Update here. I haven't slept like almost at all. Maybe a little 10-minute here and there. And then I wake right back up because I'm waiting for one to fall right now. That's when I forgot about this campsite. It has these acorns and they fall all night long. And they fall all night long, and it sounds like, you know, something's running through the woods. You know, especially when like the bigger ones fall and they hit all the leaves. You hear those? And so it kind of freaks you out. I hear them all back there just falling. Well, I had a night hike to get here. Yeah, you hear that one? Rolled into camp around a little after, I don't know, I don't know, closer to 8. You know, it gets dark earlier now, so didn't have as much sunlight or daylight as I needed, and I was really not feeling good at the end of the hike yesterday. I started to wonder if my filter was not working. Maybe I drank some bad water or something, because I started to feel like I was going to throw up, and so that slowed me down. And this trail and this whole trip, the reason I picked this, I knew this was a harder hike. It's Rim of the Gap Trail and all that stuff. You hear this stuff? That's all night long, just falling like that. I chose to do this my mid-October trip because typically mid-October we've got nice cool weather, and heat and all that's not a factor doing a harder trail. And so that's what I originally planned for in this trip. But lo and behold, you know, we get this crazy 2-day. I hear that? See? All night long, man. All night long. We get this 2-day like little heat wave coming through here. It was stifling. Like there was no air movement. That was the biggest thing. It was like when I was up on that ridge, you know, hiking up and doing all the elevation. I'm doing like 3,700 feet of elevation over 10 miles. But doing all that elevation, there was no wind, and it was in the 80s, mid 80s, and so it was just like I was sweating, and it was just not drying off of me. You know, the humidity was higher than it should be normally, especially when you're down near the river and the creeks and stuff. The humidity is higher. That was probably the most disgusting I've felt hiking on all my trips, and I've done some ones in warmer weather and stuff, but usually if I do really warm weather trips, I don't do a lot of crazy miles or elevation like that one. And then the sickness, and then not being able to sleep tonight. I got the camp. I didn't even do a campfire. I got the tent set up. It's not ideally pitched. I was so tired. So, I mean, I'm halfway comfortable, but not really. Just using my jungle blanket. I mean, that's how warm it is. I mean, the whole night, I'm just using this little thin jungle blanket as my main blanket, and I've had to take it off a few times because I'm too warm. It's just, like I said, never happens up here right this time of year. Cramps going down my side, my back. So it was just towards the end, it was pretty miserable. Just with the feeling sick and the cramps and the just nastiness. I mean, I went out and bought those Ultras on the way to the trail yesterday, and I destroyed those things already. I'll show them to you, but man, they're just destroyed. And I don't know how I feel about those. I mean, they're comfortable. I'll give you that. Those are the Altra Lone Peak. They're comfortable. I love the wide toe box in them. The zero drop doesn't bother me at all. I actually like the zero drop in it.
So they were comfortable the whole time. The biggest problem I had with them was the grip. It just did not grip rocks like my other shoes do. Like I have hiking boots. I have like another hiking shoe that's like a halfway hiking shoe boot combo thing, and I have my my Wildcat, LA's Sportiva Wildcats, whatever, the blue ones that I usually hike in. Never have issues like I did yesterday with gripping rocks. I can grip rocks without an issue, but with these, I must have slipped and fell 6 or 7 times. And by the end, I had no faith in those things walking on any kind of hard or rocky surface, dry or wet. My feet would just slide. That was very, very annoying. So those shoes are probably relegated to trails where I'm not going to be on rocky surfaces. So I'm gonna wait for the sun to come up here, pack up, eat. Hopefully not get killed by falling acorns. And I get up out of here. The way out of here is not as hard. I mean, it's 5 miles up one of the easiest trails. So that, compared to yesterday, I took a crazy route coming in here yesterday. I chose a really difficult way to get to the site yesterday. I did it on purpose, but some variables came into play that I wasn't expecting. I kind of just killed this. So I'll pack it up. I gotta get out of here in the morning. I'll probably go home and go to bed. I'm gonna be so tired. But for now, that's it. I'm gonna try to get another 10 minutes of sleep and listen to the acorns. Yesterday, it's a proper breaking in right there. That's what that is. According to my watch, it definitely wasn't the longest hike I've ever done. I've done 17 miles in a day. It was over 10 when I combined it with the other trails I was doing. What was that? But according to my Apple Watch, it was one of the most rigorous hikes I've done because I set a new, hiking calorie burn record. It was 10 miles, 3,700 feet of elevation, I think I ended up doing overall by the time it was done. So it's a little bit of climbing, several steps, ladders, and a lot of crazy rocks. I know why they call it the rim of the gap now, because you're up there on that ledge, and it's the terrain is very unforgiving. It's very wet, very rocky, and there's sections where there's a cliff next to you. So definitely see why they close it in the wintertime. Other times of the year where it could be dangerous, because it was definitely it was the most dangerous trail I've ever done. I wouldn't say it was the hardest. I've done some pretty tough trails for elevation over shorter distances. And obviously doing like the foothills trail, that was pretty rigorous. That's where I did a 17-mile day. But it wasn't ever dangerous. It was just tough. This was dangerous. It took me much longer than I thought it would. Mistimed it. Ended up having a night hike to my campsite and set up in the dark, which wasn't fun. Doing the Mount Mitchell trip that I did around Labor Day, comparing to this one, I'm starting to need more hammock, man. Like that last one, when I put my Nemo pad in the hammock, very comfortable, easy to set up. You can set it up anywhere. Tents in this terrain, tents are good. You have their place. I do like having a shelter kind of more around you. I hate crawling in and out of them. It's a pain in the butt, especially when you gotta go to the bathroom one night. And the terrain around here is just, it's all rocks and roots and trees, and even the designated campgrounds. Like, I had a really hard time getting a tent set up because it's all open. They cut down, trees and clear out a whole area, but it's all uneven terrain still. It's very bumpy. Lots of rocks, sharp rocks sticking up to the tent that I tried to clear out, but so I got there after dark and I didn't do as good of a job clearing the ground out, but it's a lot of fussing around, and it wasn't very comfortable the whole night. I was still on some kind of like a little tiny angle. It wasn't bad, but just having a little bit of an angle, you notice it after laying there for a while. Actually, if you look up there, that's where I was hiking yesterday in the rim of the gap. I was up against that rock ledge up there, coming around. It was pretty cool. A lot of cool rock features up there like that. But I was going to do a 2-dayer and go do the Dismal Trail today. I totally underestimated how hard that one was going to be yesterday. And I started cramping up. I got sick. It was just going back to the tent hammock controversy. So I think from now on, when I come out to these areas, most of the Appalachian areas, unless you're going to be in a shelter or near a shelter, or the site you're going to has good tent pads or level tent setup areas, it's best to just go to the hammock. Because there was a point yesterday where I didn't know I was going to make it to my campsite because I was cramping up really bad. I started feeling like I was going to puke, and I still had a couple miles to go. And so I had to sit down in the middle of the trail and just take a break. And I started thinking about, okay, well, I might have to set up camp out here on the side of the trail somewhere if I don't start feeling better, because it was already dark. But there's no one to really set up. Like, I would have been in rough shape if I ended up having to set up over there, because there was only, I think I found a couple spots where it might have been potential. But if I had a hammock, I could have just thrown it up in the trees and been fine. So I ended up pushing through to the campsite. So that's Jones Gap Falls. That's probably the easiest, impressive waterfall you can get to in this park. Rainbow Falls is really cool. A bit tougher to get to. You gotta climb over 1,000 feet. Like a mile. You gotta work for that one. And there were some falls that were pretty good on where I was yesterday, but it was a lot of work. This one's only about 3 miles in on the main trail, which is an easy trail. So you're not even doing too rigorous of a hike. Want to see a cool waterfall? That's a good one. I'm gonna wrap this one up here. Just about back to the car. I'm running up on some people. So I'll call this one done. See you on the next one.